Welcome to Voice of Business, a monthly podcast brought to you by Capital Club Dubai and Botho Emerging Markets Group. Each month, we talk to leaders from across the region about what's happening in their respective spaces. Today, we are honored to have with us Engineer Hussain Hassan Khansaheb, who is the Director of Environmental Disasters at the Ministry of Climate and Environment in the United Arab Emirates. Thank you for being here, Hussain. How are you today?
Fine, thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Pleased to see you and pleased to be here. Thank you for this opportunity and looking forward to our discussion today.
So you're responsible for the prevention and mitigation of environmental disasters in the UAE. What does that mean?
Well, for us, our optimum objective is to provide the best lifestyle and the best well-being aspect for the society and for the people living in the United Arab Emirates.
If I turn a little bit around to COVID, over the last 18 months, obviously, the world has experienced, unprecedented impact on our lives in terms of economies, people, what have you, with this pandemic. And in your space, when it comes to biosecurity, biodiversity, my guess is that it's been mixed results. On the one hand, you've seen the emissions go down. You've seen, there are fewer people walking around, especially during the lockdown and between, say, March and November, December last year. Animals were happy. People were not impacting them as much. But on the other hand of it, I'm guessing that there've been some hampering of conservation efforts and things that could have been done because we didn't have the capacity to do so, because maybe budgets are being cut to do other things to take care of people, what have you. What are a few, positive impacts that have come about as a result of COVID, or some innovations that have come through your ministry that are here to stay, that has been interesting to observe and grow during this difficult time?
We can see how it affected how it affected the community and how it affected the society, the health of the people, the wealth of the economy, how it affected the work industry, how it affected the companies. But let us see it in a different way when we think about it as lessons learned and opportunities that we have gained from this COVID era. First of all, let me say that the air was happy because of the air quality, right, and the reduced particles and emissions and reduced air pollutants that were all launched into the air. But on the other hand, there was a challenge from the food sector because of the restrictions and because of the constraints to travel, to import, to export, and because of the risk as well that the animals or the agriculture could be a host to the COVID virus. So the country had taken certain severe measures for that. First of all, they have rearranged the imports and export procedures in order for us to assure that the food is being available here in the United Arab Emirates, that there is no shortage in food, there is no effect on the food imports and exports. So that was one of the top priorities that we had here in the country.
Now, when you explain what you just explained, in retrospect, it sounds very logical, right? Government pivots, government shifts. You put in measures to make sure that you're tackling the push and pull between, imports and exports. But in reality, when it's happening in real time, it's not as easy, right? And secondly, so that one thing is it sounds logical in retrospect. The other thing is government by nature moves very slowly because decision making and What is it that made this government in the United Arab Emirates have the ability? What are some of the values that made it easier? Not easier, but may have made it easier to move so quickly?
The leadership of the country had embedded within the entities that the priority to your work is the people of the United Arab Emirates, is the name of the United Arab Emirates, that is the competency of the government and the efficiency of the people working here. So from this background and from what the people had been working towards since back in 2016, when the Golden Jubilee agenda was set and the national agenda was set as goals and objectives for the country to meet in 2021, when the government will celebrate its golden jubilee, then we need to be in a certain level, and we do not accept to be in any less to what was set. And this shifted the mindset of the government entities, not only the federal government and not only the local government, but the leadership had guided the way to merge between both governments in the country, the local and the federal, to work together to achieve what is required from us. And this resulted in a quick action taken during the COVID period. So the integration between these companies was made easier, the communication was made in a much efficient way, and the people had this mindset in the back of their head. So what happened actually? First of all, the emergency sector or the crisis management sector had been created immediately on spot, led by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid and His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed. And we all saw that during their meetings, which were broadcasted live. And the emergency community was available, and they were all on spot, taking decisions, discussing what is required, and doing what is needed, putting the country as a priority. So that was the first element. The second thing is that the balance between the health sector, the economic sector, and the health sector and the economic sector, as well as the education, which was a very important part, which directed the discussions and directed the decisions made. And for that, I believe that coming from this background allowed the country to move towards this direction and to achieve what was achieved during that period.
No, that's incredible. I think, again, I think a lot of commendation goes to government, because this is very hard work, and it's not business school case study. This is in your face, has to happen. People's lives are dependent on it, and I think the government did a tremendous job in sort of still managing the crisis and everything going along with that. And I'm sure that, again, as part of the folks in that space who are doing that, I think you guys did a heck of a job, and so that's incredible. Yes. That's incredible. Sustainability. So for a long time, this region, this country especially, also heavily dependent on things around oil and gas, fossil fuels and all that. But then there's been a transition to the service industry that's working well. And then there's a big focus on sustainability. And in doing this journey over these last few years, doing that, what has been some of the learnings?
As you mentioned, that the UAE's economy is an oil dependent economy, and since the exploration of oil, it has been considered as a major income to the country. But suddenly one day, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed had made a very strange announcement that we'll be celebrating the export of the last oil barrel from the UAE. And this announcement made us think on what does the future look like, and what we need to do in order to achieve this statement. This is a fact. When he said it, then it is a fact for us. So we need to look into to diversing the economy. And one of the streams of diversing the economy is going to sustainability, because we need an alternative and we need to do something else. So back in 2012, there was another announcement by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid that we are launching today the Green Development Strategy. And the Green Development Strategy is that it means that we are not stopping development, we are not stopping construction, we are not stopping transportation, we are not stopping increasing of jobs, we are not stopping whatever economic work we are doing, we are just making it green. And this is the green agenda of the UAE. And this is the strategy that made us think that, yes, when we are growing economically, then we need to make it sustainable. Whether it was by launching sustainable projects, or whether we are focusing on green jobs or reducing the water usage or reducing the wastes in the country. By the end of the day, we need to achieve our economic growth that we are moving towards, but in a sustainable way. So this was the base, and this was the direction that we started working on.
But what has been the private sector uptake in this new plan as we go towards 2050? And what more can the private sector be doing in this space to help government achieve some of these objectives?
The private sector is considered as a partner to the government, and everyone is familiar with the PPP concept, where the public-private partnerships are being the hot topics when discussing new projects or when discussing initiatives. But we see the private sector as a government of the UAE as a partner. We see it as a success factor. And we think that engaging the private sector, not only by providing incentives and not only by providing facilities to the private sector, but including them in the whole process, since the planning phase that we have, by putting our strategies, by putting our plans, by launching our decisions, the private sector should be involved in taking these decisions. Furthermore, after the directions had been set, then the private sector is there to support in achieving this direction from the government, whether it was by considering its priorities to be aligned with the government sector and the private sector, or whether it was the input that the private sector would put towards towards achieving the final and optimum goals set by the government. And there are many ways of engaging the private sector that were witnessed lately in the government of the United Arab Emirates. The councils are one of the aspects, but besides that, launching the partnership projects is another aspect. Including them in the decisions to be made is a third aspect. Lately, we have seen a few days ago the reformation of Dubai Chamber here in the United Arab Emirates, and this reform that occurred in Dubai Chamber was accurately studied to achieve the input of the private sector and all the government sectors in the United Arab Emirates. 2 days ago as well, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid had launched a few initiatives here in the country while visiting the Ministry of Economy, and one of them was the Skill Up Academy and the Skill Up platform, and this is this is a clear proof that the reliance on the startups and the reliance on the small and medium enterprises will increase in the upcoming period. And from that engagement, I think that this is how the government would achieve what it's planning and what it's looking to achieve in the upcoming period.
So, related to the role of the private sector, obviously today we are sitting at the Capital Club, which is a business club here in Dubai. How does a club like the Capital Club contribute to the efforts that you were just talking about when it comes to the private sector engagement with government?
You have touched on a very sensitive and something very close to my heart, of course, and that's because I am a member in the government committee in the Capital Club, and my role is to increase the engagement. And
so you are the conduit. You are that guy.
I am trying to do that, and I hope that I can succeed in what the Capital Club is expecting from me. And what I have seen in the previous period that I have worked very closely with the Capital Club, that the platform this club offers to the government sector and the database from its members and the input from the members towards the government is priceless, actually. It is something that they have supported a lot in many of the late government initiatives here in the country. Few months ago, there was a collaborative initiative between the Capital Club and the government to reform many legislations that wouldn't have happened, to be honest, without the input of the Capital Club members and the Capital Club knowledge of what is going on in the business here. Besides that, the engagement that the Capital Club offers between the government representatives, which are members here in the club, and the private sector representatives, that the dialogue that is being created between them, and the variety of exposures and the variety of perspectives that this platform, which is the Capital Club, provides the government members, will allow them to change their mindset in a way to adapt with the private sector status here in the United Arab Emirates. Because sometimes we are back in our offices in the government and we don't know what is going on in the real life, and what is and how the private sector deals with a lot of issues and challenges here, and maybe some opportunities as well that we don't see. And this engagement allows this perspective to be clear and to be viewed for us as a government representative.
Now, let me ask you, you have a very peculiar birthday, right, in terms of the work you do. You were born on World Environment Day, as I understand. Do you think this was a premonition to your life, or how do you think that plays into the life that you've led so far relative to your job?
The good thing is that many people don't know about the World Environment Day, and when they come to celebrate my birthday, I tell them, no, let us celebrate the World Environment Day. This is a good thing that came out from being born on the 5th of June.
You're born here. You went to school overseas, came back. You have worked in the private sector, worked in government so far. What have you picked up along the way in terms of career as a leader? What are some nuggets you picked up from this journey so far?
Well, it was a fruitful journey, and when I was back in grade 10, before I go to Liverpool, there was one step as well that I think changed my perspective. And that was it's not what I did, but what it resulted. When I was 16, I joined to be a football referee in the Football Association in the United Arab Emirates, and I was the youngest referee back then, in the age of 16. But what happened is that we were being sent to referee matches in the whole country, and from Abu Dhabi to Ras Al Khaimah to Sham in the far north, to Al Ain, and I passed by the cities that I haven't seen before. And this changed a lot of my perspective. I have seen the country, I have seen the UAE, and I have seen the variety of the people and the diversity of the landscape in the country. And when I went to study in the United Kingdom, in Liverpool in particular, and I specialized in the marine engineering, I came back with a different perspective, and the priority was to serve the country and to be an effective member in the country to achieve its objective. And back in 2008, the government of Dubai set out a master plan to expand the marine coastal shores here in the UAE from the existing around 60 kilometers long to more than 1,500 kilometers long of marine offshore. And then I thought, yes, this is my chance to make a difference here in the UAE. And then when I moved to the Dubai government sector, it was a different opportunity as well. During this period, when I worked in the Marine Transportation Department from 2009 till 2016, we launched the water taxis, we launched Dubai ferries, we launched the electrical abras, and we launched the marine transportation route from Dubai Creek to Dubai Marina, and connecting them to the World Island and to the Palm Islands. And this was another impact as well. That was something new that was born here in the UAE. And from that perspective as well, I take it with me now to the federal government, is that I am an effective member to add value to the country, to reach where the country is directing towards, and to be the best country in the world.
Why did you pick the subject you picked in marine? Like, why that? It's not common. Most high school students are not thinking marine biology, marine anything. They think of other subjects. Why did you end up there? I'm just curious.
Maybe it's a passion to the sea, and at the same time the passion to engineering.
Right.
So I had the engineering family background, being a family member of a construction engineering family, as well as the engineering characteristics and the passion to engineering, and at the same time as a hobby as well. I'm a scuba diver, I'm a fisherman, and I enjoy water sports, jet skis, water ski, surfing. So I have the passion to both, and I think they merged to result to being a marine engineer, and currently responsible for the marine pollution portfolio here in the United Arab Emirates as well.
That's incredible. So you are the example of the leader who says, follow your passion, and that passion will move to where it needs to go.
That is totally true, yes. I totally agree with that, of course.
What are some of the trends you're seeing that as you work to become a leader, a global leader in this space, what trends you see happening over the next 15 years or so?
There is no doubt that the digital transformation is one of the elements that are driving the future. And I'm really glad that you brought this topic, because the future forecast and looking towards the future is one of the important directives that the government had worked on since they have started the World Government Summit and the future workshops in collaboration with the World Economic Forum. And we can see how the future that will affect all the industries in terms of technology, in the beginning, in terms of finance, in terms of industry. So when we talk about digitalization, then we think about how the digitalization will affect the humanity in the health sector, or it will affect the humanity into the human enhancement programs, utilizing the digitalization, or utilizing the big data or the information that is being gathered. When we talk about the industrial sector, then we can all see that the future for transportation is the automated transportation systems, the automated transportation vehicles, or public transportation, or even jets or planes, or private helicopters, which are fully automated and driverless, and something that will be reliant on in the upcoming period. In the previous few months, the Ministry of Industry and Advanced Sciences had launched the Operation 300 Billion initiative, which is mainly to diverse the country towards the industry and to look into the industrial sector as a major, going back to the non-oil economic diversion as well. It will be one of the major components of this diversion towards a non-oil economy. So I believe that the indicators show us that this is the future and this is how it will look like, and everyone here in the country and in the world should be prepared to this diversion.
Absolutely.
Everybody should be prepared to change the mindset, to change the workflow, to change the habits that we are having now, to adapt with what is coming in the future. And one clear example that we have all seen and witnessed is the effects on the taxi drivers when just Uber took place, and how this had made a major shift in the transportation industry. So I think this is the future, and this is how we look at it, and this is how we are being prepared now to receive it.
You know, it's interesting what you're talking about around automation and especially in transportation and movement. This is anecdotal. I had a young person, actually I think he's 10 years old, asked me a question the other day, and he said to me, in the era of driverless vehicles, if the car hits somebody, who's responsible? Is it the manufacturer? Is it the owner? Or is it the car? And so what is the role of, how do you then redesign industry, insurance, what have you, to come to the new reality and the new normal, whatever the new versions look like? And I think you're absolutely correct. I mean, it's very exciting, but yet I think there are many different elements that come along with these conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the same question I asked His Excellency Tom Fletcher, which is the previous ambassador of the UK to Lebanon, as he is now working very closely towards the future of diplomacy, future of diplomatic relations. And I asked him this question exactly, which is regarding the futuristic weapons.
Yep.
And I told him then, if an unknown weapon is utilized from a country to a country, then who is being responsible, who is being blamed? And this is a bigger aspect than just a car hitting a person.
For sure.
But I think that all these elements should be taken care of and should be legislated. And just to mention that, to overcome this challenge here in the United Arab Emirates, 2 or 3 years back, there was an initiative to establish the RegLab, which stands for Regulation Laboratory, and it is something to tackle the non-legislated innovations and non-legislated businesses that would like to start, for whether it was for testing purpose or just something new. And previously they were just stopped because there's no legislations for them. But then this initiative was the solution to these businesses that come to the RegLab. We will just expedite it and introduce a new temporary legislation for you just to start, whether it was for testing purpose or whether it was for working purpose, until the complete legislation is being made.
Absolutely.
And I think this will answer your question.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And then finally, you are servant of your people. You work for the government in public policy. But at some point in your life as professionals, you start thinking of your future and your legacy. And so as you move in transition to sort of the second part of your career, what do you think of as, what mark do you want to leave? When it's all said and done, say, what did Hussain do in this space? What legacy do you want to leave for your people or your country?
Well, the legacy is a very important thing to be considered always, because it's what's left of you. And when I think about the legacy, always I think of it of two streams. The first one is that I want to keep a legacy in the humanitarian aspect and the people's aspect and the society's aspect. The other legacy is towards my work and what I have done and the achievements that I am hoping to achieve. So from the people's aspect, I think that the legacy is to keep your name being said in the best way possible. That when people will get your name after you have gone, everybody will remember you and how good you are and how useful you were to the people and to the community and to the society. And when it comes to the work aspect, then the legacy since I started my career in the marine industry, then I thought about it is that I should be remembered always as a person who had served the marine sector in the United Arab Emirates and had caused a diversion into the marine sector, whether it was the marine pollution or the marine structures or the marine construction. But it is always, I think, about putting a fingerprint on the marine industry in the United Arab Emirates. So that is what I hope for, and I wish to be remembered as somebody that had made change to the marine industry here in the UAE.
Absolutely. Engineer Hussain, thank you so much for joining us today. I think I couldn't have said any better. I think you absolutely, I like the way you think through that in terms of the two streams, the humanitarian side and also the professional side. But even more importantly, on the professional side, you're talking about an industry that is quite unique, that's very specific, that that benefits the world, right? It's about the marine, it's about the future, it's about our flora and fauna in the ocean and the waters around us, and I think that's beautiful. So thank you so much for your time.
Thanks to you, Isaac. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for joining us.
It was a great opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you.